On technical solutions in Islamic financial services industry, and this is going to be delivered by Haytham Abdu, who is Group Director Marketing of ITS, which is a Kuwait-based IT solution provider for Islamic financial services industry. Haytham.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم جميعا. First of all, I would like to thank Amjad, the organizers of this great event. We're very proud to be a gold sponsor here. I will briefly go through some of the complexities that were discussed throughout the day, but from a different angle, the angle of technology, which nowadays is starting to play not a critical role, but an inherent role in the operations of any business, focusing specifically on the Islamic finance. As ITS, in brief, ITS at a glance is a company that has been established over 25 years ago, that are experts in the area of technology and Islamic banking. We were born out of the Middle East and grew to over 25 offices worldwide with over 2,500 consultants and software engineers, focusing primarily on the finance industry across the world. In brief, just to get right to the point, from our experience in dealing with most of the Islamic banks within the region, from Kuwait to Bahrain to Qatar to the UAE, Egypt, in Lebanon, we see that from conventional banks and Islamic banks, like the prominent speakers have said, more or less very much similar in terms of operations, except for the main underlying difference of principles, which is Sharia compliance. Sharia compliance may be a simple phrase, but it brings along with it a lot of operational challenges, as we can see from all the different panel discussions and the arguments. I think in the previous panel discussion, one of the main points that was addressed was the offering of products and services at competitive prices. That's a major challenge. The delivering of products in a timely manner. Time to market is very important, so you can compete with other Islamic financial organizations or with the conventional. It's no good to have an idea as a product and have to wait 6 months to operationally deliver it within your institution from an IT point of view, from a training point of view, from preparing the contracts in your computer systems, from waiting for your IT vendors to customize their solution to be able for the bank to take it to market. And you have to reduce your administrative costs while doing that as well. Keeping all of that in mind, that puts a burden on Islamic financial institutions from a complexity point of view. And from our experience in dealing with different Islamic banks across the Middle East, in the Far East, in different parts of the world, I think the main thing that we heard today in many of the panel discussions was standards. There is a lack of global standards that also puts an extra burden. Technology, a simple diagram here that really shows there is no difference from a conventional bank and an Islamic bank when it comes to customer service. Over the years, technology really has enabled financial institutions to deliver better customer service by opening up from rather being a branch-based organization to an electronic-based organization where banks are accessible 24/7, either through the internet, a kiosk, a mobile, a branch. So all of these things are still required for an Islamic bank. AOFI, ITS is proudly a member of AOFI and have certified our technology solutions, one of the first actually technology companies to do so. However, AOFI is a standard from the accounting point of view and the contracts point of view. Can we today say that all the banks comply to the AOFI standards? There are different standards in the Far East, and banks that decide to look at AOFI as a base standard, still their Sharia boards will go for some differences from the AOFI standards, which is expected. ITS, over the years, really, what we've tried to do is look at the main pains of Islamic banks. As we have been focused in that area, we have realized all these business pains and wanted to make sure that we have a software solution and a technology solution that actually addresses these business pains. Our flagship product is called Ethics Financial Solutions, as we feel Islamic banking in general worldwide is starting to also be marketed in a different way, from an ethical approach and good for society approach, which is breaking the barriers of its adoption across primarily Europe and the US and other parts of the world. So we look at our solution to really look at from the entry point of Sharia compliant automated process flow, how the Sharia boards can dictate what is Sharia compliant for their specific bank, looking at the trade-based financing from customer application all the way to the credit control, to pre-trade process, trade process, and then the actual financing at the end. What we've tried to do, we wanted to ensure that our software solution is Sharia compliant. But that's a very, very difficult statement for any software vendor to make. Most vendors, I'm sure there are lots of banks now looking at Islamic solutions, and most vendors will claim our solution is Sharia compliant. ITS does the same. However, the main difference is who defines what is Sharia compliance. Is it the IT vendor based on his experience in a certain Islamic bank? Do they have the ideas of every single Sharia scholar in the world to be able to say clear-cut, this is Sharia compliant software solution? And the answer is no. Sharia compliance comes from within the bank, from AOFI standards, from the approvals of the Sharia scholars, from the Sharia committees within each bank. So we wanted to make sure that our software is definable for the bank themselves to dictate what is Sharia compliant, rather than we have it as pre-claimed within the system. There's also regulations that have to be part of the product. When the central bank issues its regulations here, then our software has to comply with the central bank rules and all the policy compliance. In order to achieve that, we have innovated over the last couple of years within our ethics financial solutions a new concept. The concept of allowing the banks to really define Sharia compliance from the ground up, rather than a system that has pre-built murabha and you have very limited room to set parameters. We allow you to define what these parameters from the beginning would be. So it's an Islamic sort of piece of clay that has the underlying principles of Sharia compliance, of buying and selling of goods. And then after that, it's the bank and the Sharia board that decide how products are structured, what kind of business models the bank will define. For example, a financing model, a leasing model, investment model, or a trade business model. And then with every model, you start defining what instruments the bank will allow to operate within the organization. And then within the instruments, you start setting up the flow. Is this type of instrument based on a buy, sell, and a finance? Is it a build and then you sell, like istisna? Is it a build, lease, finance? So all these options are not predefined in the system. They come from within your Sharia committee and your Sharia board. And then at the very end, we allow you to define what your competitive products are going to look like. I'll skip through this. I believe we're the first company to come up with what we call an Islamic instrument generation engine. And it truly is an engine that allows you to define the instruments from the ground up for Sharia compliance. The beauty of the system is it's not a conventional system that was fine-tuned to be Sharia compliant or behave as per Sharia compliant. It was designed from the ground up for Islamic banking, Islamic financing, which makes it really add value to the business pains of your organization. The other main Islamic engine that we built is the product engine. We were hearing in the last panel discussion that you have to also be competitive and innovative in how you create your product. But it has to be done in a quick period of time. So our product generation engine allows you to define the rules of the products, how you will engage with which customer base, what contracts have to be associated within each product, what are the accounting entries that need to be generated within the products, and all of this is in an electronic way. The other main pain we've seen is the calculation and distribution, of course, of profit. And that's quite complex. And I believe we built a very robust profit calculation module or a matrix that allows the Islamic banks or an Islamic window in a conventional bank not only to distribute the profit, but to actually calculate the profit based on the business rules that you select. No more do you have to use Excel sheets and then try to create batch files to upload the profit to the customer accounts. All of this is automated and running in some of the tier 1 Islamic banks in the Middle East. Credit scoring, that's a general thing. At the end, Islamic financing still, you have to score your customers to be able to be eligible to give financing, so that's inherent within the solution. The what-if analysis before the financing happens is part of the workflow of the whole system. So the customer still has the luxury to sit, whether at the internet channel, to see if I was going to get financing from Bank X in an Islamic way, what would my payment schedule look like? Keeping in mind all the Islamic rules. Customer information, know your customer. There's lots of regulations worldwide about the amount of knowledge you have to have about your customers. So the customer relationship is also very important for the anti-money laundering, for the blacklisted customers. And then we come to one of the main things, which is the workflow. And that's where we find that the slight differences between different Islamic banks within a same country, and sometimes more differences within the Islamic banks across geographies. Especially maybe in Malaysia, things are looked at in a bit different way than in the GCC or North Africa. And so to preset the workflow of a murabha does not work. You have to be able to define when a purchase order has to be issued for the murabha, when the deal has to be registered, when do you want to actually post to your general ledger a credit or a debit. All of this has to be quite dynamic in your IT solution. I'll skip to this briefly. One of the other main very powerful tools is what we call the account generation engine. It is critical for Islamic banks to have the flexibility to decide when a credit or a debit needs to be posted to their back-end general ledger account, as that is inherent within the whole Sharia compliance. When an asset, like for example a murabha for a car, when the bank buys the car, it goes into your books, you need to post an entry. When it comes back out, when you sell the good back to your consumer as a murabha deal, another entry has to happen. When a payment is made, another entry has to happen. All of this type of workflow and steps cannot be predefined. That will make the system very rigorous and very inflexible for any modifications of the business rules required by your organizations later on. Such an account generation engine gives you that type of flexibility from a business point of view without have to reverting back to your IT vendor for customization and waiting for months and testing and so on. Asset construction, we have a dedicated module for istisna operation, managing the contractors, managing the progress of the istisna project. So once again, focused on all the different types of Islamic instruments. Inventory control is an interesting thing. Some Islamic banks have their own inventory of goods in showrooms where they sell and they finance from their own inventory. So if any Islamic banks wish to enter that operation, then these types of modules need to be part of the Islamic financing system. The top part is the financing part, and then to complement that, of course, we have to look at the investment part, which covers the fund management, the portfolios, the asset management, the wealth management, the sukuk management, and the treasury. And that's another suite of products that ITS has also deployed in the market for the Islamic banking industry across the last couple of years. I won't go into these details as the time. From the panel discussions, we heard there's lots of models of Islamic banks, or every country will look at it in a different way. And I think one of ITS's value propositions is that we've been involved in this industry for 20 years, so we've been part of the actual maturity and transformation of this industry in the different geographies. So we were part of establishing startup Islamic banks in 2 months, bringing up the whole IT systems with the procedures, with the business flow in 2 months or 3 months. We've done it in Malaysia, we've done it in Sudan, and in other countries. Conventional banks fully converting into Islamic banks. I believe we're the only country in the world that has actually done this in our part of the world. So we don't only bring the technology know-how, but we know what needs to be converted and how, from the business point of view, to convert the conventional loans, and we have special IT procedures to take them into the Islamic way of business, ready for banks to deploy in an Islamic way. We've done it with Bank of Kuwait in the Middle East, that last year or the year before converted fully into an Islamic bank as Al Ahli United Bank. We've done it with Kuwait Real Estate Bank, that fully converted from a conventional bank to Kuwait Investment Bank lately. We've also, our ethics solution is deployed for Islamic financing companies or Islamic investment companies. And then one of the more complex scenarios is the Islamic windows, where we have the first Islamic window, for example, in the Commercial Bank of Dubai. That's a conventional bank, got a license for an Islamic window. We were able to go in and deploy the window solution, not only from an IT system, but look at the business challenges and the Sharia compliance challenges of segregating the data and streamlining the process as well. I believe in this last panel discussion, it was said that no bank has started off as a window and then fully converted into an Islamic bank. And I believe that was the case until very recently, especially from the Arab Spring, where in Libya, Al Gumhuriya Bank, one of the largest banks there, is a conventional bank. We had deployed our Islamic window solution before the revolution. After the revolution, with the increased influence of the Islamic parties, the bank has decided to fully now extend that Islamic window in a fully fledged Islamic bank. So I believe this will probably be the first bank where we are now currently deploying the Islamic window, not to be a window, but converting the entire bank into an Islamic financial organization. The Islamic window has some challenges. I'm sure they were addressed and will continue to be addressed today and tomorrow by the distinguished panelists who know more than me from the business point of view. But from a technology point of view, from the challenges we have seen and addressed in our solution, the key challenges really is looking at the financial statements and the charts of accounts, the separation of them, the Islamic deposits, the profit calculations for the Islamic side of deposits away from the conventional operation of the bank, the synchronization between the customer profiles. Will you have a customer who has a profile in the conventional but also wants to have an Islamic product? If so, will you end up having two customer profiles, or do you want to streamline a single customer profile and then you will see his portfolio to extend over a conventional portfolio and an Islamic portfolio? Those are some of the key challenges that you will face from a technology point of view, but it's important to address them within our solution. The collection of the actual finance also has to be considered, and then there's separate reporting from the window for the regulation, for the regulatory entity, then the conventional reporting. That's also addressed within our solutions. The Islamic profit calculation, once again, is one of the key areas that has to be addressed when you look at the window solution and the reporting. In terms of ethics, really for the first time, Islamic banking is born out of the Middle East. And we were part of that transformation, and that's why we felt very proud as an IT company for a change, rather than importing technology and know-how of technology from the Western world for a change. ITS is able to export technical expertise within that line of business of Islamic finance. So over the last couple of years, we've been heavily recognized by global organizations like Gartner, that's ranked us one of the global leaders in Islamic banking, by Celent, by the Forrester Group, with our solutions running in a sample of some of the tier 1 Islamic banks in the Middle East, the Bahrain Islamic Bank, Qatar Islamic Bank, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank, Kuwait Finance House Group worldwide, Arab Finance House, Al Gumhuriyya Bank, and many others within the region and beyond. Our Islamic instrument definition engines were classified as a very innovative piece of software that actually is more than a software. It's a business application that solves an actual business challenge of Islamic banks. And in the last several years, we are very proud to have received many awards from Islamic financial organizations and committees for those specific innovations focusing on this industry. And my last slide, really, the main message that we wish to give is that we have realized that technology should not be the one that drives how you do your business, especially in Islamic financing. Technology should be an enabler for you to define your Sharia compliance. No IT vendor should tell you what Sharia compliance is. They should give you the right technology tools for each bank Sharia committee to dictate the Sharia compliant rules. With that, I would like to thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much. Before we go, we have a signing ceremony between General Counsel for Islamic Banks and Financial Institutions, commonly known as SIBAFI, and Amjad Group. So I would request Dr. Izzuddin Khoja to come over, and on behalf of Amjad Group, Khalid Hilal Al-Yahmidi would be signing on the agreements. It's very good. Thank you very much.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يعني كلمة صغيرة موجزة، أعرف أن الوقت ضيق في هذا الخصوص، ولكن لا يمكن أن تفوت هذه الفرصة الطيبة لعقد المنتدى الأول، منتدى عمان الأول للاقتصاد الإسلامي، إلا أن أشيد وأهنئ الإخوة القائمين على تنظيم هذا المنتدى الذي يأتي في وقت مهم جدا تشهد فيه سلطنة عمان توجهات مهمة جدا للسماح بالعمل المصرفي الإسلامي أن يبدأ أولى خطواته بشكل منظم وسليم بإذن الله تعالى. باسمي الخاص وباسم الصناعة المالية الإسلامية، اللي المجلس العام للبنوك والمؤسسات المالية الإسلامية هو الهيئة التي تمثل هذه الصناعة، والمجلس العام للبنوك والمؤسسات المالية الإسلامية هو هيئة دولية منتمية إلى منظمة المؤتمر الإسلامي، منظمة التعاون الإسلامي، وأعضاء كل البنوك الإسلامية في العالم. بهذه المناسبة نبارك لكل الإخوة على هذه الخطوات الجبارة، وأعتقد أن التحدي أمام إدخال المصارف الإسلامية والعمل المصرفي الإسلامي في عمان يكون مثل أي دولة بدأت في هذا المجال تواجه تحديين أساسيين. التحدي الأول هو لابد من انطلاقة صحيحة على مستوى التقنين وإيجاد التشريعات اللازمة لأن تقوم هذه المؤسسات بأعمالها بالشكل الذي يتوافق مع طبيعتها. والتحدي الثاني الذي تحدث عنه كل الإخوة من قبل وهو تحدي تأهيل الكوادر البشرية، وهذا تحدي أساسي. أعتقد أن هذه تأهيل الكوادر البشرية أمر مهم جدا وتحدي كبير جدا، ولذلك المجلس العام يسعده في هذه المناسبة أن يعلن عن وصوله إلى اتفاقية مع الإخوة في شركة أمجاد. هذه الاتفاقية تأتي في إطار نشاط المجلس العام على مستوى تحسين جودة الخدمات التدريبية. المجلس العام قام بإصدار إصدار عدد من الشهادات المهنية والدبلومات المهنية والميني ماستر، كلها تتمثل وتتميز بأن المجلس العام أراد أن يحسن هذه الجودة من خلال إيجاد الأرضية المناسبة لوضع المناهج المعتمدة، لوضع الحقائب التدريبية واعتمادها، لاعتماد المدربين الذين سيقومون بتأهيل الكوادر البشرية، لاعتماد المؤسسات التي ستتولى تنفيذ البرامج التأهيلية. كل هذه الاعتمادات على مستوى المناهج والحقائب والمدربين والمؤسسات التدريبية هو صلب عمل المجلس العام للبنوك والمؤسسات المالية من خلال المركز الدولي للتدريب المالي الإسلامي. والمجلس العام يقوم بهذا النشاط من خلال وكلائه وممثليه في كل دول العالم. واليوم نعلن عن هذا العلاقة الجديدة التي نفتخر بها مع شركة أمجاد الذي سيمثل المجلس العام في كل أوجه النشاط التدريبي. وبهذه المناسبة أعتقد أنه ستكون التوقيع على هذه الاتفاقية مدخل أساسي لخطة عمل لسنة 2012 تكون حافلة بالبرامج، وستكون بإذن الله تعالى ناجحة مع دعم المؤسسات المالية. وهذه الشهادات هي لا يقتصر نفعها على الموظفين والعاملين في البنوك الإسلامية، وإنما أيضا كذلك على المتعاملين معها وعلى الطلبة وعلى غيرهم. فأرجو أن تكون هذه أيضا بداية من البدايات الموفقة لتوفير الكوادر والتأهيل المناسب للمهتمين في هذا المجال لإنجاح تجربة المصارف الإسلامية. وأدعو الله سبحانه وتعالى أن تكون هذه التجربة لبنة مكملة للصناعة المالية الإسلامية التي بحمد الله بلغت كما ذكروا الإخوة في سنة 2010 حسب الإحصائيات التي أعلنها المجلس العام $1,000,000,000 بليون حجم الأصول على مستوى البنوك الإسلامية بالكامل، فول فليدج إسلاميك بانك، وعلى مستوى البنوك وشركات التمويل والاستثمار الإسلامية بالكامل. فإذا